Holla ballers, what's going on? It's Preacher. Today we're going to look at that thing that I told many of you about on the Daily Preacher and whatnot, and that is being Grippy Bitch on Aggramar Mythic. So many of you wanted to see what this looks like and any tips I can give you for those of you coming up to this. We recently covered volunteering in our little Get Good series, and I was asked to switch from my mage over to my Death Knight, my Blood Death Knight, so I can be Grippy Bitch on here. Why is it important? As far as I know, no one has been able to kill Aggramar Mythic without at least 2 Blood Death Knights. It's one of those weird things Blizzard's thrown in where it kind of requires a certain setup in order to get this thing done. And basically, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff with ads. We're going to be gripping pretty much on cooldown. And I'll show you some things that we do there. So, as we get started, I'm going to hit the play button now because, as you can imagine, in the initial beginning of the fight, I don't actually do that much because there's nothing to be gripped yet in the opening setup here. So, I will point out, it took us about 100 pulls to kill this, which was too many. That can happen sometimes. It was too many. And the reason was we were kind of using an incorrect strat. I should have noticed. I should have done something about this a bit earlier. But honestly, it's one of those things where sometimes you're presented with a strat. And you kind of take it at face value. It happens to us all sometimes. Rather than saying, actually, I think we could do something different. And on the night we killed it, we actually changed the strategy that evening. Like, we thought about it and we had a bit of a discussion amongst a few of us as to what to do, and then we implemented a new strategy, which actually we got the kill very shortly afterwards. So it's a bit silly there, a lot of wasted time, but what can you do? So what's different here on Mythic, just for those of you who've done LFR, Normal, and Heroic, is the Flame Rend that knocks you back. That has to be split amongst the raids. So we have one that goes on the melee and one that goes on the range. You can see a barrier on my left there. That was for the ranged one. Everything kills you much more, but the big difference is the ads. So on Normal, you kill the ads. On Heroic, you have to pull the ads into the boss one by one and wait for the debuff to wear off. In Mythic, you do something very similar. However, 4 of the ads that will spawn randomly around the platform will already have a substantial amount of energy. And if they're not destroyed very quickly, like pulled into the boss reasonably quickly, then they're going to detonate all at once. Any ones that hit 100 energy are going to detonate all at once, and that's a wipe, pretty much. You don't want that to happen. So this is the important bit. So at this point, I have to make a lot of decisions. See, the ads spawn over. You can see I'm looking for the big ones. Now, thankfully, we had a weak aura, which eventually marked these, but at the start, when we started progress, we didn't have that. Now, what I do is there's a few things that happen there. I'm actually going to roll back just a second here to make sure you guys get to see this. So, first of all, let me tell you about the strategy we were doing wrong. So, let me pause here. You can see the skull and the star marker here. So, generally, the ads do not spawn in a set position. They're pretty close, usually. They're in an area, right? So, they're not. You can't mark exactly where an ad's going to spawn. There'll be one near there. That's how we work it. So, generally, there'll be an ad that spawns near skull and an ad that spawns near star. Can't do anything about those. If they're big, great. If they have, we'll call them big and small from now on. Big means they've got a lot of energy. Small means they don't. If they're big, great. That's awesome. That's fantastic. If they're not, tough shit. There's nothing you can do about that because our strategy heavily relies on making sure these 2 pop first. So what's going to happen is, if you remember, if you know Aggramar, not only do these small ads spawn, but the 2 big ads spawn. And if you pull a big ad near a small ad, right, the big ads are tanked, then they empower the small ones, make them faster. So what's going to happen is both tanks are going to pull their ads, one near the skull and one near the star. That's going to speed those 2 up and get them in exactly the same time before everything else can hit the boss. So we're going to be taking a double debuff, which is extreme amounts of damage. It's very extreme. The healers have to be very ready for it to happen. People are spread out everywhere as well. Traditionally, we do something like huddle up for this, and we could have a barrier and things like that. Can't do that here. Can't do that here. Now, what we were doing before we implemented a better strategy was the ad that would spawn, say, near blue, and its mirror on the other side that would be near skull, right? So there's another marker over there. We would have the warlocks decide whether or not to banish this one. We have a warlock on each side of the room. They would either banish this one, or they would look to the one next to them and see if that one was big. So let's say the one at blue spawned and that was small, but the one on its right would spawn and that was big. They would grab the big one and banish that one, and then I could maneuver the blue one into position. If the one at blue spawns and that's big, they grab that one. And the whole point of this is to try and ensure that we're popping at least 2 big ones in the next double hit. I said a lot of things there, but let me break it down for you. We're going to do 2 double hits. We're going to have the star and the skull hit the boss. They're going to be sped up, right? By pulling those ads over them. They're going to be sped up, hit the boss. That's going to do a massive amount of raid damage. And then pretty much as soon as possible after that, once the debuff, because we get a damage over time effect. I'll show you that in a minute. Once that wears off, we're then going to trigger 2 more. And that's going to give us another double debuff, which the healers are going to be like using everything they've got left to keep us alive. People are going to use personal cooldowns on that one to keep us alive then. And then after that, it's going to be my job to sift through all the remaining ads. I'm going to use my mass grip to pull them all together. And we're going to use a series of Typhoons, Frost Novas, Mass Entanglement, things like that. And I'm going to pick out the big ones as a priority to detonate them so they can't reach full energy and explode. And then after that, I'm going to work through the small ones to get it done. But I'm going to do some other things along the way here. So let's keep going. So my initial, you'll notice that when we transfer, it's 80%, and we're going to the phase starts, is I'm going to pull back and I'm going to be watching this side of the room. I'm going to be watching this entire side of the room to see where the big ones are. And there's going to be calls being made from the other warlock and the tanks to say big or small, essentially. And they're going to communicate to us what's going on. The strategy that we changed in order to make this far more consistent is that the warlocks had no set one, really. They were just going to find a big one and get it. And that's it. And then we would do a slightly more difficult grip later. You can see the way I look up here. So I'm watching this entire side. You can see our warlock here. We've got Cloggy over here. You can also see the Doomguard over there, where Pyro is over there. He's our other warlock. And they're just going to be watching for the big one. Now, this one, first phase, actually went really well. I'm not going to lie, this was super rare. Like, the more we tried this boss, the rarer and rarer this got is that you can see the standard ad came here, and then that got big. You can see where it's got the 50 over it. That means it's a big one, and this one has a 0, which has a small over it. This became rarer and rarer for us to happen. For whatever reason, it just seemed to never, ever happen. So, on this side, Cloggy's got a very easy big one. You can see he's already casting Banish on it. That's going to be stuck on there. See, it's banished. And then I come over here. So, my next strategy is this. I can't remember the exact call that was made from Pyrrhwin. But I ideally, now I know this one's banished. And this is the mark, this is like the grip marker. You see this purple mark, this is the grip marker. What I could do is pull this one into this pack, right? So I want it to land in line with the others. That means it's all going to approach the boss at exactly the same period of time. And that means I can maneuver my mass grip more around the circle to encompass the fact that Pyrrhwin isn't getting this grip. Now, you might say, they're all traveling to the middle, Mikey. Aren't they going to hit at exactly the same time? Yes, but I can't grip them into the middle. I'm actually going to be gripping them outside of the middle. So if I'm stood around here, then these are obviously further away than the ones that are around here. So I can then sort of rotate my circular position around a little bit. So I'm going to grip this one, then come over here. And we're going to notice there's 2 big ones here, but that's fine. Out of the 4 big ones that spawn, as long as 2 of them are in the ones that are initially going to die, it's totally fine. So you can see I kind of position myself. See the way I'm off center? Yeah? I'm off center here to make sure I can grab these. And I'm going to wait to the very last possible moment. And the reason for this is you can see now I have the 2 debuffs. So the first 2, that Star and Skull, have now collided with the boss. We've got this. You see, look at the raid damage. It's scary as fuck. And then this lasts for 15 seconds. And this burns and it hurts really badly. So they've now hit. Now I'm safe. If I could have gripped before this, but there's a risk I would have pulled in one of the other ones. And I don't want to do that. So I'm going to wait to the last possible moment, then mass grip them all together. Now we're going to do a little twist. I'm going to immediately... I've got anti-magic shell up, by the way, to try and reduce this damage. I'm now going to immediately tear ass with the Wraith Walk over to here. I'm going to taunt this big ad off our other Blood DK. And we're going to swap. And hopefully I can see him running for it. There he goes. You see the cross? Now he's now going to tear ass all the way back to the other big group of ads. Now, this is going to do one thing. He's going to use his other mass grip to pull them back as far as possible. That's just going to make CC controlling these ads throughout the remainder of the intermission so much easier. Okay, we have this spare mass grip. We might as well use it. So you can see the boss comes out here. Now, this is the cool thing. One big ad, another big ad. Boss is going to be moved to here. Very strategic tank positioning here. That's going to mean both of the ads come towards the boss. Now, you can see the blue tank here. This is our Brewmaster. We're going to be maneuvering Aggramar to here. And so this one over here will naturally walk into the boss. And then I'm going to be able to grip the star. And I have to do it exactly the same time. So you can see I'm going to stand right here. And you can see I'm just watching the diamond walk in. And I have to trigger them both at the same time. Now, why is that important? If I don't do it at the same time, what's going to happen is one's going to hit. We're going to get that big burst of damage. The dot's going to start ticking. And if I then delay the other one hitting the boss, we're going to get the next big round of damage, and that dot's going to last even longer. So if we are going to do a double, it needs to be exactly the same time. So waiting, boom, boom. You see, instant trigger both of them. The dot's on for the least amount of time it needs to be. So now I have this task. You can see the ads. You can see the way I'm rotating my camera to see this here. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I found this so interesting to do because although this is the kill and everything's going to kind of work smoothly, there is loads of adaptation to do here to try and make this happen at a reasonable place. Because although I'm showing you the grippy stuff, I've got to give shout outs here. There's huge amounts of stuff being done by the ranged, which we'll talk about more in phase 2. These guys are dealing with a huge amount of stuff at the same time. And when we first did the pulls, the healers made it very apparent that although my job right now might seem pretty simple, which is just go and pick the big ones, the marks, it's not that hard, and then drag them into the boss, there are very specific times that cannot happen because it's going to kill people, because the raid damage coming out elsewhere is really high. So there's tons of talking going on here, absolutely tons of talking to try and balance this out. So you can see I have 3 seconds left of my death grip. Now I'm going to maneuver out. I'm going to find the one I want. Now we're going to do a chain grip here. A chain grip here. And this is going to be a common theme throughout. There are going to be a lot of situations where if I could have just death gripped something, it probably would have made things so much easier. But you can't. You can't do it because it has to work. It has to be perfect. And the particular difficulty comes in during technique, which is the dance or whatever you want to call it on Aggramar. Now, technique's a pain in the ass. So I have to move into this because I need to soak this with the melee because it hurts so bad. It hurts so bad. Now I have to make a decision. So I dragged that in to detonate it. Now the only reason I could do that is you'll notice I actually had my death grip ready, but I didn't do it during technique. I have to wait for the exact moment, and this is where it gets a little tricky with the timings. You have to wait for the exact moment that the melee group has taken the hit and been healed up. Then you can detonate it. Now, there's only 3 times you can detonate it. You could detonate it during a tank hit, which is what I did here, or during the AoE, because everyone runs out of the AoE, so that doesn't do any damage. But you have to buy the healers time to catch up. So here's the AoE, that's fine. The AoE, if any of the ads are caught in this AoE, by the way, they become empowered and need Master Spell. That'll be happening later. So I'm going to pick the star. Now you'll notice I grip it to here, and again, I'm setting this up because we keep the ads so far away. I'm just setting it up, and I'm communicating to our other blood DKs like, okay, we're safe, pull it in. Or I'll usually say, pull it in when something's safe. So if it's during technique, I'll say, okay, it's ready, it's the diamond or whatever. Pull it in when you're happy. And that basically means if it's a tank hit, go ahead and grip it. If it's an AoE, go ahead and grip it. Something like that. I'll just put it in a nice, easy location to pick up so it's not going to be CC'd. It's not going to get hit by Typhoon and whatnot. So once you reach this point, this phase is kind of done with. We've got through it, which is a real nice feeling, by the way. Like, getting through it and seeing the phase 1 done is really, really quite nice. So again, getting it in just before the flame rend, so the healers have chance to, and the healers were like, but you might be saying to yourself, why are you doing it so tightly? The way Blizzard has timed this is very clever. So you'll actually get rid of the ads way before the end of the phase, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, you can stagger destroying the ads, right? No, you can't. The way Blizzard's done it is that you have a few seconds leeway between each ad, but not much. And if you wait too long, you're going to get a double. And the double at the wrong time is a wipe. It's as simple as that. The energy is just going to rise too high. You can see these ads are already at 81 here. All right? Which means you really need to stay on top of destroying the ads. Even if you would rather not do it, that's not, it doesn't matter. You have to get them done in a reasonable time. So even though you're like, we're so far ahead and nothing scary is going on, it doesn't matter. The ads continuously have to be destroyed. So we're about to go into phase 2. Phase 2 is even more difficult. So in phase 2, the flares, which you'll have seen if you've done normal heroic, I believe they're on LFR. I might be wrong on that. It's the huge AoE that comes around a range player, right? It's the huge AoE. So if you do normal and heroic, your idea is basically to stand somewhere on your own. So if you get flare on you, it doesn't hurt anybody else. On Mythic, those flares are now going to do 2 things. One, they're going to spawn fresh adds, which sucks. And not only that, they're going to send out the walls of flame, which is pretty much a one-shot on Mythic if you get hit by them. So what we do is we're going to create a mass grip ball. You see I'm going to do everything the same again here, which is, again, weighing up this side. I'm not sure what we get on this one. Let's have a look. Ah, you see? Nothing good. Nothing good at all. So this is tricky. You can see Cloggy's like, I'm fucked. But this is where the communication comes in. So important. It's the other side's going to tell us it's fine. We've got 2 big ones over here. And therefore, Chloe's going to make a decision, which is, all right, well, I'm just going to banish that one. Yeah, everything's cool. It's all good. I'm just going to banish this one. You can see I've only got 2 here, which is exactly what we want. That means there's 2 big ones either going in. If I actually look here, the star and the skull were both big ones. Wow, that is such a free win at this point. Such a good feel to have that happen. So in they go. Again, delaying it. So I'm not going to tank swap here. Okay, this is the first change that's going to happen in phase 2, because previously I tank swapped this ad and he went and mass gripped him. Because this flare is going to spawn fresh ads, I can't do that. We can't waste his mass grip there. We need it, because mass grip perfectly ties up with flares. Who'd have thunk it? And there's going to be a flare immediately after the next phase starts. So what we're going to have is range people. You can also see these firewalls coming out there. The range people, you see one there. The range guys are going to try and surround. This is really tricky that they had to do this. They have to bait the flare. So what that means, if you're not sure, is they have to try and get the flare to land on them. And they have to stand in a very specific place so that when they spawn an ad, it's not going to trigger the other ads with the flare and empower them. But simultaneously, it's going to be in mass grip range. So I'm going to actually stand on top of the tank after this. So here you go. I'm going to do the double again. Same as we did. We still need to clear these ads. There we go. Got the double in. Wait for him to be in position, and then we're going to stand on him. And I'm just going to use that trinket that absorbs like a shitload of damage, because I don't want the healers to bother with me too much. I'm going to use that trinket just so I can absorb, like, I think it's like 18 billion damage or something, that trinket orb, so I can just stand there, and it's all good. And then that flare has just gone off, and our other Blood DK has gone. You can see I swapped out with him. Once he got back to share the cleave, I then ran out, because my job now is to get the process going again. There's no relenting. There's absolutely no stopping. These ads have to be destroyed. Now, this bit's going to be a bit trickier again, because not only do we have to get rid of the big ads, there's fresh ads spawning, but they're spawning on 0 energy. But the original small ads, right? So when all the ads spawn, we get 4 big ones, and then the rest are small. Those small ads are going to reach 100 energy before we can kill the boss. Blizzard timed it extremely well. So what I have to do now is get rid of the big ones, and then we're going to start working through the small ones, ignoring the fresh ones. Right? And it's really, it's a real tight timer. And what we're going to do is we planned for this ahead of time. Is about, when the boss is about 4% or something, we're going to get a double. And that's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. But there isn't much we can do about it. Because at that point, dragging another one in, generally, depending on how good we've been, is still going to overlap and cause a really long 2, like I talked about earlier, where we've had one for like 13 seconds, then we're getting a double, and that means you've had the dot for ages. People are definitely going to die. And also, it's going to make CC even more stressful. So what we want is just, at that point, we're going to say, look, we're going to get a double. We're not going to pull them into the boss. We're just going to let them explode, take the double, use personals, we'll heal whatever we can. But keep them CC'd, keep them away from the boss. So that's the strategy at that point. So you can see we actually had a tank death there. Luckily, it was the flame rend, which was nice. So at the same time doing all the gripping, you still have to get in for the flame rends. I'm going to drag this in while we do this AoE. Yeah, because there's no damage. There's no damage when it does the AoE, because we all move out of it. And that's going to give people plenty of time to get healed up. You have to do that sometimes. So there was plenty of times you had to be running out of the AoE and gripping something in at the same time. Now, this was a little annoying. Is one of the little lads, for some reason, it just didn't get hit by the Typhoon. So there's nothing we could do, because it's not part of the CC block. It's not part of the CC block. That I had to get rid of that one. Now you can see we have had all various energies. Now not only that, the flares just gone. You see the way the guys all baited the flares into a certain position? Now they're all kind of spread out, which really sucks because I want to mass grip these, but look, they're all over the place. So my best solution here was to mass grip these to here, and then they're going to be slowed. Let that one catch up to the pack. That's the best way of dealing with that scenario because I can't hang around. Which would have been nice. There's no time to like, oh, I could just wait here for a minute and then I could mass grip them. There's no time. Every time my grip is back off cooldown, there's a 1 or 2 second gap before I need to grab another ad. Now, the ads died here, which really sucks because if they're dead, nothing particularly bad happens except you can't move them into the boss. You can move the boss over them, but obviously moving the boss over that many is not a good idea. So the next plan here, as you can see, we've got a grip in there from the other blood DK. At this point, I'm just calling. Look, the boss is at 8%. We could have avoided the double, but there was nothing I could do. They were dead. Boss is at 8%. We're going to get the double, but none of the others are going to detonate before the boss dies. Their energy's too low. You can see they're in the 60s, but we've got these ones that are really high. They're just about to hit 90. Nothing we could do about that. So at this point, I'm weighing it up. You can see I'm actually checking, see, is there anything I could do here? And the answer is no. Sometimes you've got to make that decision. It's like the answer, no, I can't. There's nothing I can do here that's going to make this better. Maybe we could just about squeeze one in. So my next plan here was to stand in the tanks and help with sharing the cleave. And while our other blood DK ran off to try and grip all the ads back in, deal with the final flare, and make sure those ads are no longer a factor. And if you reach this point, boom, you're in happy days. So you see that double that came in. You can see how much damage that did to the raid. Real scary. You see the rogues laughing. Like, what damage? Damage? What? And now we're just getting ready to move the boss or something like that. Our blood DK comes running back in. You can see him with the cross there. And down they go. I'm just going to be just pulling this back. Get out of here. I want nothing to do with you guys. They're all at 80. Boss is going down. And it seems relatively smooth, right? It seems relatively smooth that we got through that like that. But believe me, it's very stressful towards the end. It is extremely stressful to get there. But I have to say, it was so fun. It was so fun to do, is to have this many little jobs. Because there's so much... You'd think if it was a Grippy Bitch job, it's just a case of you're the grip guy and that's about it. And as you can see, we have no DPS DK. Please apply. Please apply. We have no DPS DK. So there was no spare grip or anything like that. There's no like extra one lying around where it's like, okay, one got loose. Can you deal with that? We didn't have that option. So we had to deal with it in this way. But it was super fun. It was super fun. Kept me interested through the whole thing. There was constant adaptation to be done. Really had a super blast with it. But for those of you who are interested in doing something like this, that's what you do. That's what you do. Very cool. And on to Argus, the last boss. And I think only 80 guilds have managed to kill that in the whole world. Should be fun. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. You have a great day. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.